Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, November 21st, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about the state of Tennessee and the 7th Congressional District, as Democrats and their super PAC on the House side drops $1 million into an election that's set to take place in roughly 2 weeks. Tennessee's 7th District is having a special election because their former congressman has decided to leave the office and work in Washington, D.C. as a lobbyist. This Republican decided to leave his position here and made that conscious choice, leaving a vacancy open for December 2nd, 2025 as an election date to fill said vacancy. Now, House Democrats have been quite bullish on their odds at the 2026 midterms, but nothing seems to show much more confidence about where Democrats might be in a year's time than dropping $1 million in a state district that voted for Donald Trump by over 20 points in the last election. For a bit of context, Tennessee's 7th District voted for Representative Green by 21.5%. This is a district, again, that's overwhelmingly conservative. You will find that there are very few blue pockets in this district in specific, and the district was drawn in a way that ensured a Democratic gerrymander. In 2020, you will notice that the 5th District here was Jim Cooper, I believe is the name. He was drawn out by the Republicans in this district 2 years later to make it so these districts were very, very conservative. There was a slight competitive nature about the 5th District in 2022, but then in 2024 became an immediate, easy one for the Republicans. But it wasn't this district, the 7th, that faced competitive nature. It was plus 22 in 2022, LOL, plus 22 as well in 2024. The point is that consistency, this district shows that Republicans have done quite well. And even a 15-point swing wouldn't take this district out of being one that Republicans won in the last election. So what do they see in 2025 in this election? Well, that's something we'll have to wait and see on Election Day, but I think it certainly is a sign. Now, House Democrats are not the only ones meddling in this race. Donald Trump's super PAC also decided to invest money in this race as the first campaign expenditure for his super PAC since he won the election. That's correct. Not in any of the races that we saw that were very high profile. He did not funnel any money into Winsome Sears' race. He didn't send any money to Jack Ciattarelli, who he was a huge proponent of in this election. He didn't even try to stop California's Proposition 50. This money that was raised, be it small, was raised by the Republicans and Kevin McCarthy and Arnold Schwarzenegger in this race. The point is that Virginia, New Jersey, California, a lot of these races that would have made sense for Trump's team to invest in, they never really did. And now it seems out of fear of losing this district, they are going to spend their money. Because Democrats putting $1 million in this race, I think, is indicative that they at least see something in this race. Now, I have maintained that I have felt that Republicans will win this race on Election Day and that Democrats will see an overperformance, but it is not enough to crack a Donald Trump plus 22 district across this state, right? Tennessee is a red state, I do believe, too, as well, with the more high profile that this race gets, the better it is for the GOP, which is why Trump knows investment in the race, and I said this too, the investment from Trump is actually going to be quite beneficial to the GOP, because if the president is calling attention to a race that nobody knows is happening, then they're going to get out and vote if they choose to, if they feel compelled by the president for the Republicans in this race, which is why I think that this race ultimately will be won by the GOP. But I have not really seen Democrats see this as a race or as an opportunity up until recently that they might be able to actually land in. Right, Donald Trump spending money in this race, I think, was the first sign. The second sign is that House Majority PAC, which is, an organization that didn't spend a dollar on this race in 2024. In fact, outside spending on the Tennessee 7th District race just a year ago was less than $5,000 across both sides of the aisle. Less than $5,000 of outside spending on either side combined as a total for Tennessee's 7th District. Now you're going to see it in the millions of dollars because for the first time in a long time, this race is actually competitive. When you look at the history, of Tennessee's 7th District, you'll see the Republicans have won it through and through. I mean, this has really not found itself voting for anybody besides Republicans for quite some time, whether it's governor, Senate, presidential. This is a Donald Trump and Republican district, even in 2018. When Marsha Blackburn ran against Phil Bredesen, the Democratic governor who won every single county in his re-elect in the state of Tennessee, decided he wanted to run for Senate and narrowed up that race quite significantly. Tennessee went from being, a Trump plus 30 state to one that Republicans were only able to win by 11. I mean, if this was a swing state, would have been a damn landslide for the Democrats. But the point is, even then, this drawn district could not find itself when you had a Democrat statewide outperforming Clinton by 20 points, flipping blue. That should put things into perspective. This is a locked-in Trump district. This is a locked-in Republican district. And if Democrats are spending, $1 million more plus than what they did in 2024, and so are Republicans, clearly some people see this as a race that could be quite interesting. This is a race that Democrats could have on their sleeper side, where under the right environment, Democrats could win it. I'm not saying they will, and they certainly are not the favorites. Republicans are more likely than not going to win this race. I put them at about 90% odds. But I do think that 10% has sometimes found itself prevailing through like it did in the November elections in 2025. Not necessarily with Abigail Spanberger, who outperformed expectations, but more so on that side of Jay Jones, who not only won his race, despite many expectations that he would lose. I did predict that he would win, but I said he would win by 0.4%. Not only did he win, he outperformed Kamala Harris in this state by a very interesting margin, because he was able to do better than Harris did when she outperformed Clinton in 2024 versus 2016. And to see this actual margin be about 6.4% across the state, Kamala only won this state by about 5.6%, right? He won the state, Jay Jones, against Jason Miyares, an incumbent running for re-election, someone who had a higher favorability rating than both John Reed and Winston Sears, not Abigail Spanberger. But it was also, and I think more importantly, a race that Democrats looked to and said, we're done. Because of the scandal, because of X, Y, and Z, Democrats were really worried about how this race would go, but evidently, they won. And I think that it is, again, Virginia is a much bluer state. The Tennessee 7th is for the Democrats, obviously. But I do think that there is something to be said about the investments that are going into this race, because House Majority PAC, I can guarantee you, probably has some internal data that's not public. Like the Donald Trump group, his super PAC, that springboarded him into, supporting candidates in 2022 and into his 2024 bid, they likely have data as well that tells them the state of the race that probably is waving a massive red flag. Enough so, at least, that Donald Trump and his allies are willing to spend millions of dollars in a district that wouldn't even be looked at, more than once in an overview of competitive districts. This would be the last seat Democrats would ever think to target, and yet it's high profile, it's high stakes, and both sides seem to know something that last year's election would not suggest, which is a competitive race in 2025. And I'm not really that shocked looking at the competitive nature of many of these 2025 elections or the Democratic overperformances that you've seen. In Arizona's 7th, Democrats overperformed by roughly 16 points. In Florida's 1st, Democrats overperformed by 15. In the 6th, by 15. In in Virginia's 11th, Democrats overperformed by 16 points. I mean, you saw pretty consistently in the average here across all special elections, from state Senate districts, House races, state assembly races, whatever it is, the average outperformance across all these races for Democrats is roughly 12 points. To put that into context, in 2018, the average Democratic overperformance from Hillary Clinton was +6. And so if Connor Lamb, I know I feel like I'm pulling bits and pieces, but if Connor Lamb was able to take a district that in 2020 voted for, Republicans overwhelmingly in the 18th district, and it was one that Democrats didn't even contest because it was so solid for the GOP, that was Trump plus 22 years later, less than that, would flip to the Democrats. If that was the environment under Democrats outperforming by on average 6 points, maybe it could happen in 2025. Again, not the likeliest thing to happen, but not outside of the realm of possibility. And it seems like now both sides recognize that. We'll see. We have 2 weeks to go, a little bit more than that, and a very interesting time to understand what's happening in this Tennessee election. But as it stands currently, Democrats are in a very interesting position in the 7th District of Tennessee, and one that might shock us all, Democrats, Republicans, Independents alike, about the nature of how close it is on December 2nd, 2025. Or involvement from Trump could help Republicans tremendously, and they could perform just as well as they did a year ago. but it will be very fascinating to watch in a district that will mark the last major special election of the 2025 season and give us a good understanding of what we might be able to expect in 2026 and potentially beyond. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, and then a playlist for my 2026 House election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.